Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our advanced webinar on our 3D design software, DuctQuote. And as you know by now, this is our way, this set of webinars is our way of keeping you abreast of the updates and the changes made in DuctQuote, as well as helping you get the most out of this amazing tool. And in this session, what we're going to be covering is the 3D model editor, specifically how it can help you close jobs. We're going to take a look at how that proposal and export functions can help you close the job more easily. Basically, what we're going to be looking at is how to take what you create in DuctQuote and the tools that DuctQuote offers you and how to use them to close jobs quicker and more easily. So without further ado, we know that DuctQuote is a powerful design tool for industrial ventilation, a powerful quoting tool, but you really need to take a look at the power that it brings to closing those jobs. And we want to leverage that to close more jobs faster. And to do that, we need to understand some basic strategies and the functions that support those strategies in DuctQuote. So let's first talk about some points about buyers. Now, first, number one, buyers will do business with those that they trust and are comfortable with. Number two, a majority of the population, and that includes the buyers, are most comfortable with processing information that comes to them visually. Number three, the more something looks familiar, the more comfortable the buyer is making the decision to buy that something. And number four, and this is an old adage in sales, the most responsive seller typically gets the order. Even if the buyer is shopping the job, it's usually the most responsive seller that gets it. So how does DuctQuote help to address each of these? Well, we're going to talk about that over the next 15 to 20 minutes. So oddly enough, I want to start with number two. And let's go ahead and log in because I want to give you guys some visuals here. And I'm going to open up one of my trainings. And we're going to put an actual on the board here. So I'm going to turn a few things off just so that it is easier to see. All right. So the following might seem kind of obvious, but a 3D layout like this in DuctQuote has a very powerful visual impact. Okay. Most people are used to looking at 3D images. So when you present your proposal, make sure that you include the 3D image on that proposal. If you're going to make a live presentation, and we strongly advise that you do just that, make it like a walkthrough in the system. So you might, in fact, walk them through and talk about each individual machine and the drop to that machine. Okay. In fact, it is even better if you can have the buyer ask you questions and let them direct the walkthrough. It makes them start to take ownership, if you will. And lastly here, if you have the time and can get them drawings of machines that are going to be there, you might want to include 3D models of the machines, the collectors, in the layout that you're going to present. And screen sharing programs will make a big impact as you do this, like we're doing here using GoToWebinar. You could also use WebEx, Teams, Zoom, GoToMeeting. There's lots of these programs that allow you to do this, right? Let's step back now to number one. That kind of covers number two, which is a majority of the population are most comfortable processing information visually. But number one, buyers do business with those they trust and or more comfortable with? Well, by working with the buyer, by walking through the layout with them and presenting with an explanation of why you did what in the design you're presenting, you build trust and you help them feel more comfortable about that design and about you. Now remember, you can present the design even if we did the layout for you. We'll even help you by being your technical resource, and we can run the presentation software for you to help you learn how to do that. Okay? Now, number 3, just like with number 2, making the layout look as close to the final install as possible helps that buyer see and get comfortable with what he's buying. This might mean the adding of machines. Now, most people are pretty impressed when they see a layout like this, but I want to show you something. This exact same layout, when we'll call it deck it out, can look like this. And again, we'll turn a few things off here to make it easier to see. But notice this is the exact same layout. And as we're walking through this, you can see that's the exact collector that they're going to have. These are the exact table saws they're going to have. Here are the band saws, the chop saws. There's the CNC, the sander, a planer, right? This makes a much bigger impression, as you can imagine, because they see exactly how things are going to go, even down to here we can even put in models of the cutoff gates. And I think you can see that this really does make a big, big impression. Now we can even do something like, let's say if we were going to look here, and on these sections here, we were going to actually paint this, we can use our powder coat function and say, paint that, or we might paint it black, right? So again, if you can make it seem as close to what they're actually buying, that's what you want to do. Now, once they tell you they're comfortable with your design, never forget, ask for that order. All right, so that's number 3. Number 4, remind you, the most responsive seller usually gets the order. And even if the buyer is shopping that job, it's the most responsive. Well, how does DuctQuote help you with that? Well, DuctQuote allows you to be a lot faster than almost everyone in the industry getting a 3D layout created and turned into a proposal and back to the client. The configurator feature in DuctQuote even allows you to create proposals for bill of materials. As you can see here, something that we can quickly add items, and the configurator will even tell you how many clamps you need for the parts that you're adding, and it'll handle all of your additions and so forth. Revisions are fast. In other words, when the end user comes out with a update or an addendum, you will almost always get that revision made and back to them. You'll be in the lead for the most responsive. You can be online reviewing that revised proposal with the buyer while your competition is still trying to get their revisions processed and put together into a proposal or quote. So as you can see, DuctQuote really does help you drive and close more jobs faster.